All right, everybody. I think we've got some of the afternoon sleepies. But Jen's going to liven things up here along with Mark and Richard. We're going to talk about moving from sales to sustainability. Jen, take it away.
Thank you so much, Colby. Hello, everyone. Happy afternoon. I hope you've had some coffee and maybe a soft drink or something to get you through the afternoon. I know it's been a really long day. So my name's Jen, and I'm with CapNexus, and I'm proud to be here at SaaS Innovate and have the opportunity to share with you guys today. I hope you're enjoying the conference. This is my second opportunity to attend. Last year was my first time attending, and I'll tell you, at that time, CapNexus was a brand new SaaS partner. We were 2 weeks in to our partnership and knew little about anything SaaS related. And here we are 1 year later, and we are presenting a transformational story from our Retail Industry Hackathon Championship team. This team is up for the Grand Championship Award later this week. And the insights from the team's work are powerful and repeatable across organizations and industries. And I want to start by introducing my fellow presenters. First, on the PC Cake Hackathon team is Mark Tabino. Yay, Mark. And our SaaS guide who brought the PC Cake team together, Richard Widowson. Thank you so much. So this is not going to be a product demo. It's not a theoretical ESG discussion. This is a story of a very specific business question and how a small team explored this during the SaaS Hackathon. We found unexpected insights when we connected sales forecasting and sustainability. I'm going to figure out the clicker. There we go. So just as an overview, retailers face growing pressure to balance business growth with environmental responsibility. And this deep dive today, you're going to hear about how Loblaws and CapNexus transformed a hackathon concept into a practical framework for sustainability-driven analytics. Using the SaaS Viya platform, the team connected sales forecasting with packaging carbon footprint metrics. And this model can help retailers anticipate demand while reducing environmental impacts. We'll explore the journey from ideation to implementation, the lessons from this cross-functional collaboration, and actionable steps for retailers in when they're outlining their own carbon footprint initiatives. So this isn't just about forecasting sales, it's about building a greener future through data and innovation. So the challenge. Every retailer in the room feels this tension. You're expected to grow, control costs, improve customer experience, all while taking real responsibility for environmental impact. The challenge is that these goals are often measured in separate systems by different teams after decisions have already been made. So to balance revenue and sustainability, it's necessary to understand the impact of decisions before they are carried out and to do it quickly with existing data and existing teams. So let me share with you about our partner in this hack. So who is Loblaws? Loblaws was our retail partner for this project. They are Canada's largest food retailer with over 100 years of history. and they've operated under many banners. They have nearly 2,800 stores, and they serve millions of customers every week. Loblaws is already doing some things very well, including sales forecasting. But there was a blind spot. Forecasts told them what they would sell, but what those sales meant for packaging, carbon emissions, or regulatory responsibility wasn't there. Sustainability was not part of their forecasting model, and this was the blind spot. So the question that changed the conversation, the question our team asked, if we can forecast sales, why can't we also forecast the carbon footprint that comes with those sales? We were not looking to build a better model, but rather to determine why the two worlds, sales and sustainability, are not better connected in forecasting today. So then, why the hackathon was the right catalyst for this experimentation. So the hackathon wasn't about speed for the sake of speed for this team. It was about creating a focused environment where a small, cross-functional team could test an idea without the weight of a company, program, or project, and without the risk often associated with asking big questions in that type of setting. The hackathon provided that safe space to ask these new questions and put data and computing power to work, digging in for answers. So, why did this work? We had a cross-functional team with a shared goal. Who was involved? Loblaws. Now let me make this clear. Loblaws provided the vision and the direction for this team and for this hack. They guided the question for us. The CapNexus role was to support that vision and help move the question from a theory to insight. And we did that working with the VIA platform. The team combined Loblaws' business vision and data knowledge, CapNexus's retail industry experience and project guidance, and the SaaS platform and analytical capabilities. SaaS also provided the team with a mentor to help us utilize the data and the tools during the hack. And I'll say thank you to Pat if you're watching online. Pat was our mentor. So where did the team start? It was a simple but powerful approach. So where did we start? We started not with sustainability math. So traditionally, sustainability math focuses on energy usage and efficiencies. Instead, we started by saying, how can we improve the forecast quality by broadening the data that we consider? That improvement became the foundation to connect sales and sustainability. The reason forecast accuracy improved wasn't a single magical algorithm in a black box. It was the decision to bring more of the real world into our decision platform. Instead of relying only on historical sales, the team added external drivers like weather, economic signals, search behavior, calendar effects, and regional differences. It was this additional data that grounded us beyond just our sales history. So what did we find? This was one of our first unexpected results from our hack. So this broader context, bringing in additional data points, helped the model to anticipate demand changes earlier, which ultimately reduced forecast error by 63% in the area that we were working in, which was a small segment of the business. It was the beverage segment. And we were only looking at 5 months of data. So we had an error improvement of 63%. And in plain language, predictions were much closer to reality, and that matters because all sustainability calculations depend on the quality of that demand forecast. So the better forecast unlocked the better sustainability decisions because ESG impacts scale with demand. The more you're selling of a particular product, the greater impact that product's packaging has on your ESG metrics. So an inaccurate forecast is going to provide unreliable carbon estimates. So that accuracy of sustainability planning has to come first from an accurate forecast. So once we had the accurate forecast, then we wanted to connect that to sustainability measures. This is where we brought in the carbon impact. So what are the packaging attributes of the products that were included in our test sample? What were the materials and what were the emissions per unit? We aggregated that data over time and over region. Then our team built, let me get on the right page. Using SAS Viya, our team built dashboards that the planners could explore interactively. So here's what's different here. These were not static reports. This wasn't about what had already happened. These were interactive views that the user could filter by product, region, and time, immediately seeing the impact and guided by our SAS mentor. So we used the dashboards to drive into the forecast and the data, slicing and dicing based on the attributes of the products to see what we could find. So this was the hunting expedition. So what did we find? I'm going to share with you 2 of the results that we came across. The first scenario that we ran was around extended producer responsibility fees. So in this scenario, our Loblaws team brought their own problem to the table. So EPR is very active and expanding in Canada, especially at the provincial level. It's making planning really important that they understand the impact of these changes. So our team simulated a 15% increase in the EPR rates and applied it to the forecast volumes for just the cold beverages. And that change resulted in a $65,000 additional package-related cost over the forecast period of our 5 months. So that was an insight. It was something that they could plan for, not just react to. So can you imagine stacking multiple regulatory changes across categories, regions, and years, and being able to do that as part of your forecast? So we often think about in the US, the sales tax, the tariffs. How do we stack all that together in our forecast models? So that's what we did here, and we were able to look at the increase and the impact and plan for it rather than react to it. So the second scenario was around a packaging change. Now, this is where the analysis really comes to life, you guys. The team tested a what-if scenario focusing on a single beverage supplier, just one supplier, switching to a highly recycled aluminum packaging across the Loblaws network. Using the forecast volumes for just those 5 months, the model estimated a reduction of roughly 1.3 million kilograms of CO2 emission. That is about a 59% drop in packaging-related emissions for just one supplier in just cold beverages for just 5 months. But what does that look like? How do we put that in something we understand? So that's the equivalent of taking 680 passenger cars off the road for that same 5 months. That is 3.25 million miles not driven just by one packaging change. So and importantly, the insight didn't require, this is the important part, sorry, getting off my notes there for a moment. This insight didn't require an entire enterprise transformation. It came from a single informed packaging decision made visible through better forecasting, through dashboards, and through the risk-taking in our hackathon format. So the key takeaway from our hackathon team was exactly that. It wasn't just about tools or models. It was about alignment around a question. So we took a cross-functional team. We were across organizations. We were also multinational because we had US and Canada represented. And we took this cross-functional team, drove out the right question. So starting with that meaningful question, can we connect sales forecasting to sustainability measures? Forecasting quality enabled new insights. And then the speed. So speed was important because we only had a short amount of time to do the hack, but it was letting go of the perfectionism that we often hold projects to that allowed us the freedom to ask big questions and be okay with a failure. And I think that's probably something that's hard to achieve in other projects, but you can do it in a quick hackathon format. So this really gives us a repeatable framework. So how can you take this away? How can you use it? Well, you could join the hackathon next year, but you don't have to wait till next year. This is a repeatable framework. You have to start by asking the right questions. And you want to do that cross-functionally as best you can. Then improve that forecast. Because the better the forecast, the better your prediction of the sustainability metrics. That's where you're going to connect your metrics to your forecast. You have the opportunity then to do what-if scenarios. And finally, act with confidence. And this is my way of saying, let the risk fall to the wayside while you allow the team to stretch and try with confidence. And it's that repeatable framework that we can all take into account when there's big ideas we want to explore. So I'd love to open this up to the group for some questions. So thinking about this idea of a framework similar to a hackathon where you can proceed with a low risk, big ask, asking the big questions. What kinds of things might you ask if you could explore your data in this way? Would you want to know how changes in fuel costs or transportation rates impact your margins before they show up in your financial results? Would you want to know what external factors that you're not considering today could impact your margins, again, before it happens? And then what would changes in pricing? How would they impact your supply chain up and down the organization? How can you look at what if scenarios with all the appropriate factors in place? So I think there's a lot of questions to be asked. And my nice friends have waited here while I shared with you the results from our hackathon. But I really want to open it up to questions, and I'm going to start with you guys. So let's see. Mark, you've had a lot of time working directly with retailers and their data. From your perspective, what are questions you hear customers asking most often right now, especially around forecasting cost or uncertainty?
Well, it's a great question, and I think anybody in retail has probably experienced that at some point in your organization. Before I got together with CapNexus, I spent 25 years in retail, working my way up through the ladder of being a planner, being an allocator, being a manager, a director, ultimately being an SVP of inventory management or planning and allocation when I was doing it. And so I understand the challenges of getting an accurate forecast. And I spent a lot of my career working in Excel. And the reality is Excel just can't keep up with the technology that's happening today. It's not designed to look at tariffs. It's not designed to look at external data the way these solutions at SAS and the VIA platform can do. And so the hackathon is a repeatable process that you don't have to wait until October to participate in the hackathon. These are things that you can explore today, whether it's working with a consulting company like CapNexus or whether it's internally looking at your process and figuring out how can we work smarter, not harder? What questions are we asking ourselves today when we should be asking questions about tomorrow and how we can forecast accurately tomorrow? So we follow a strategy very similar to what Jen outlined in the repeatable process. This is our repeatable process, which is strategy, build, deploy, host, manage. That's your life cycle right there. So if you need to understand what you want to do, you got to have a roadmap, right? You got to have a 3-year IT roadmap, or you have to have an AI roadmap. Once you have that roadmap, what do you want to tackle first? Are you struggling with sustainability issues? Are you struggling with forecasting or demand or assortment issues? We can help understand all of that. But most importantly, the process doesn't have to wait for the hackathon. You can start that process today. The hackathon is a great proof of concept space, and that's exactly what Loblaws used it. They had an idea. They said, let's build a proof of concept. They had access to the SAS VIA platform, which was a powerful tool to help them add all these external data points. They were able to crunch that data, and where we helped them was to interpret that data. What's the story that's being told here? What is the data showing you? Because as a data scientist, you're in the weeds, you're crunching numbers, or if you're a planner, you spend Monday just data mining, and that's really frustrating. You don't have to do that with the hackathon, you don't have to do that with the SAS VIA platform. It will generate all of the predicted analytics and actually tell you on a Monday morning, hey, you missed your plan in these 3 sections. Go look at that plan. As opposed to me data mining only to find out I missed my plan in these 3 plans, and now I've lost 4 hours trying to do it. So you want to utilize all of that analytic work, but have the AI kick in to give you recommendations versus you. You can still say, no, I don't like that recommendation, but you don't have to come up with the recommendation anymore. You don't have to crunch in Excel for 4 hours and go, oh, I don't know, is it telling me I should do this promotion or not do this promotion? I see a scenario where it might work and I see a scenario where it might not work. So those are the things that you really want to think about as you take this model back to your organization.
Thank you, Mark. I
Sure.
appreciate that. So, Richard, I have a question for you as well. So, looking across the retail industry broadly, how do you see these questions changing? And what are retailers realizing they need to understand now that a few years ago wasn't a concern?
Sure. Can you hear me okay? Because this is the weirdest experience ever with all these people with headphones.
It is.
But first thing can I say is just wow. 63% forecast improvement. Did we all catch that? And that is just a phenomenal improvement for a business to make. I think it was beverages was the category. To make that kind of improvement just by bringing in different external data and running through the SaaS models, to me is a powerful statement, and a powerful statement for the hackathon. I had the pleasure of leading the hackathon retail team. When they asked me if I would lead the retail track team, I was like, how many customers do I need? And they said, if you get 5, you can participate. And I was like, I think I talked to you, Mike, and Nancy, and a couple of other people. I was like, I don't know if we can get 5 customers, but let's see. We had 15 customers. 15 retailers came to us with use cases similar to what Loblaw did, and they all came out with phenomenal results. And we don't have time today to share all 15, but there was some really good use cases, and they really showed us SaaS, how to utilize the capabilities. So to answer your question, Jin, I don't think, well, from what I hear when I go around the globe and talk to retailers, they're not asking a different question. They're still trying to figure out, how do I grow revenue? How do I minimize my costs? How do I keep my customer happy? But they're trying to understand, how do I do those things differently now? How do I really take these things to the next level? What do I need to be doing that I wasn't doing 5 years ago? I come from a long retail background before I joined SaaS 6 years ago. And I wish I had the capability that's available today to be able to see all this. So I think the questions they're asking, Jin, is, how do I minimize my costs? How do I keep my customers happy? How do I bring all that together? And the sustainability piece is interesting because more and more customers are starting to ask those questions, especially the younger generation. My kids are asking me the question is, where should I be shopping? Who has the most, the ESG or the sustainability impact? So I think it's an important lesson for all of us is, yes, they saw a forecast improvement, but imagine if you brought sustainability into your planning process. As you are planning your items and selecting your suppliers, imagine if you were looking at a sustainability score so that you can go out there and with confidence tell customers, hey, we're doing the ultimate. So I think it's exciting times ahead of us. I don't think the questions are much different. It's all around, how do I do this better? How do I do it faster? And how do I do it cheaper? And I think Loblaw's demonstrated how they can do that with the help of CAC Nexus.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay.
I think you're spot on, right? The questions are the same.
Yep.
It's just maybe faster, right? As retailers, we all know that. You always need to be doing it faster. And the sustainability is interesting. I think Loblaws in Canada is already feeling the impact, and they're seeing it in regulation, right? Where maybe in the US, we may begin seeing it in customer awareness. So I'd really love to go to the audience and hear what are some of the questions you'd like to ask about your own data if you had an opportunity. Colby, right over here. If you had an opportunity to participate in a cycle like this, whether it's in the hackathon or whether you choose to do it another way, please go ahead.
Just a quick question, and I might have missed this, so if I did, please forgive me, but the SKU that they chose, the beverage component, right? And they went from, I'm assuming plastic was the starting point. They went to aluminum, recyclable aluminum.
It was aluminum to a highly recycled aluminum. So it was an aluminum change.
It was a swap.
Yeah.
Is it a private label brand, or did they actually go to one of their suppliers?
I am not to share who that was,
Fair enough.
but
Understood. Thank you.
yeah.
I wasn't. I wasn't. I would never have imagined that it was one grade of aluminum to another. So that in
It
itself
was.
speaks volumes.
That's exactly what it was.
Thank you. Okay.
But
Just if I can add, can I?
go ahead.
The other interesting one that we never got to with Loblaw, imagine if you change the pack size. We talked about the actual product that it's made from, aluminum or recyclable, but we never got the chance because we're limited time. Imagine if they were in a pack size of 6 and they went to a pack size of 12, using half the materials. Now there's the challenge around availability and to kind of do a 6. So again, they never got that far down in this, but there's this huge opportunity to think about different ways around how you can help minimize that overall packaging through the supply chain. I mean, I'm sure everybody in the room is like me. I must have a huge Amazon recycling factory at my house with the number of boxes I have to put in the recycling bin. Imagine how what we could do to minimize that. Sorry, Mark.
No,
That's great.
it's fine. Just to follow on that, the vendor or the supplier really wasn't the important question. The important question was how many cans of this are we selling a year? And if we just change from this can to that can, this is one supplier. Obviously, you saw the significance in the difference in 5 months. Imagine rolling that out not just across cold beverages, all suppliers, but then rolling that out to other categories across all stores, across all regions. So the idea was proof of concept that we could measure the sustainability footprint and tie that back to the financial forecasts that we were doing.
Absolutely. And what else? This was just beverages. This was just a can. They have the opportunity to expand that to packaging for everything on their shelves. And the other thing that they're able to take away with this information is they can go back to that vendor and make that request. Hey, let's work together to change this. And they're being pressured to do that because of the new taxation structure that's involved. So it really gives them the data they need to go back to the vendor. So it's pretty exciting.
Another question?
Yes, I heard you guys talk about the improvement in demand forecasting. That's really hard to do. 63% is a huge number. Can you talk a little bit more about what came together to make that happen for them and what questions they were asking and what new data? I mean, that is a really big improvement.
Yes.
Yeah.
You want to start?
Sure,
Go ahead.
absolutely. I think the key element in the improved forecast was one, being able to bring in external variables, external inputs that in their current forecast they weren't utilizing. The VIA platform gave them the ability to bring that extra data in, and then once they had that data, the other variable is the SAS modeling software, the algorithms. They were able to run what-if scenarios, for those of us who live in the planning world, run what-if scenarios on all of this information. So each algorithm had its own result. And then they got to choose which algorithm produced the best result. And so they realized the forecast we're doing isn't factoring in all of these inputs, and so that 63% increase was because this specific model that they had used in SAS produced this exceptional result. So very powerful.
Yeah, in our very first session of brainstorming with them, we talked about what other external data points would we want to try. And it was wide open. It was white paper, like what could we think about? And there's even some that we didn't get a chance to bring in that I would have loved to have seen. We wanted to look at fuel prices and the fluctuation around fuel prices and impact. And we wanted to look at what that might do with carbon footprint. And we didn't even get that far. We got this one packaging result that was pretty unbelievable. But it was a lot of just opportunity to play with additional external data. And one of the things that they did is they did this 5 months of forecasting and they could compare it against the real results. So they had their own model for forecasting. They had all of the what-if scenarios and opportunities that we saw in the VIA visual platform, and that's how they could determine, oh my goodness, if we had done this to start with, this is where our forecast would have been. So that was really cool.
So we just have a couple of more minutes. Does
Yeah, is there
anybody else have
another
any
question?
questions?
Well, I thank you all very much. And if this has sparked anything that you'd like to come and talk to us at the booth, a question that you think would be just perfect for a hack like this, we'd love to talk about it more, or even additional external data factors that we maybe didn't think about, that we would love to hear what you're exploring and what hacks you might be considering. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.